Hey everyone, welcome back to another RestoreMySneakers.com video. In this episode, I'm going to tear down the Air Jordan 11. But to spare you all the agony, we've already done that. Here are the snakeskin lows. So I got these a few years ago on eBay for about 50 shipped. They were as is, and I was already aware of the midsole separation as well as the sole separation. For many, a lot of us are familiar with the outsole. In most cases, it's clear sole. We know about the carbon fiber shank, the patent leather, and the mesh upper on most of the colorways. But for those of you who are curious, what makes an Air Jordan 11 an Air Jordan 11 are the inside. So we have our clear sole. In this case, it's yellowed quite a bit. You have your herringbone traction pods, your Jumpman, which is also painted in on the inside. The next component is the carbon fiber shank, which is often referred as to a full length or usually a 3/4 length carbon fiber shank. It adds rigidity to the shoe. Next component is the Phylon midsole. It's really soft material. It's a lot softer than polyurethane, that is. And encased inside the Phylon midsole is a full-length air unit. Now, back in the day, a lot of people thought that they were using tensile air for the Air Jordan 11 because of its comfort. And tensile air, if you don't know, eventually became Zoom air as what we know it today. And as you can see, full-length airbag. You have it all the way in the forefoot, and this air just travels all the way through. Now you have the base, which I usually point out on a lot of my reviews when I pull out the insole and show you like the inside woven material. Here you can see this right here. If I remove the insole, you actually see that same material inside. There is a TPU heel counter right here, and as you can see where it actually bends, this is where you'll feel the TPU heel counter. Then you have your synthetic leather with a snakeskin print. In other cases, it's patent leather. The thing that I like the most is this particular insole. This is the insole that I use on my Jordan 1s and as well as other shoes because it's really nice and comfortable. It's a really soft cushioned material as opposed to what you usually get with shoes today, which is just a standard basic material, which isn't too bad. It's not too bad. Previously they had some kind of really awful insoles, but I still prefer this one overall. Why did this happen? Well, the seller was from Florida, and Florida is usually associated with warm weather. And we know for a fact that heat causes sole separation in most cases, as well as midsole separation. It could have been left inside a garage, left inside of a trunk, especially on a car on a hot day. You know, I've actually left a pair of shoes where it's melted and separated. The Phylon actually expanded, so it doesn't really fit flush with the upper anymore. With the other shoe, it obviously had sole separation. And you can actually see this midsole separation issue right here, where the midsole kind of expanded. It expanded, but not as bad as the other shoe. One other thing that may be a possibility is that since they use a synthetic type of leather, it may possibly have shrunk. I may not be the only one with this issue with the Air Jordan 11s. I do know that a lot of people do experience this issue with a lot of the older pairs because, you know, the glue's worn out. Might have been put outside. So maybe wondering what can we do to fix this problem? If the upper did shrink, you'd have to actually stretch it out. You know, shoe cobblers actually have the tools as well as sprays or creams to apply onto the leather, and with a tooler device stretch out the shoe, and maybe that would actually cause it to fit flush. If that's not the case, we got to get the midsole to contract and fit to the upper again, which is something that we actually tried already by putting the midsole, without the air unit of course, into the freezer, and the midsole did contract, a little bit. However, the midsole still didn't fit flush. So the final option is to just forcefully re-glue all the pieces in hopes that, you know, the midsole and the upper will actually bond together and cause it to stretch into those gaps and fill those in. And then re-glue the sole back to the midsole. So if you've already encountered this before and you already have a solution and you feel like sharing, go ahead and leave a comment down below. Considering our track record, we might make this a restoration project. So there you have it. This was the breakdown of the Air Jordan 11. Hope you guys learned something from this video, and be sure to stay tuned for our next episode. Take 2.